Hey, what's going on everyone? So you know my shifter in the STi, it's a little bit floppy and it makes it impossible to drive. Like the car does, I don't know when the car's in gear, it just feels awful and limp. So we're gonna fix that today. Now with the transmission crossmember off, I also decided that this was a good opportunity to replace some of these bushings on the crossmember with this STi Group N. I think they call it a positive shift kit. I have a whole set of Group N bushings that I'm gonna go ahead and put on the car as well, but it's a good opportunity since it's already off to go ahead and do that. So we are gonna remove, I believe the bushings are here and here. There are two for each side. So we'll go ahead and do that right now. Cool, that was easy. We only finger tightened every bolt just because when we get it on to the car, I want a little bit of play to make sure all the holes line up and everything, and then we'll go ahead and we'll torque it on the car. And also while we're down here, I'm gonna go ahead and replace this OEM transmission mount with a Group N transmission mount. And man, you can see I can already just move this transmission mount with just my hand. But yeah, there's 4 bolts total. We got 1, 2, and then 2 more on the other side. So let's go ahead and yank that out and put that in. You can also see from under the car, this is going to be all the shifter bushings that we are going to take care of. You can see here is the rear shifter mount. I don't know what it's technically called, but that's going to get replaced. You can see our shift lever. Those are the 2 bushings right here that we're also going to replace. And then I don't know if you can see from here, but right about there is this kind of like U-joint that's going to have to come out as well. So yeah, it looks simple from down here, but it's my first time doing it, so I'm probably going to have some fun doing this. All right, so I want to show you how you can get this linkage part right here out. So this is the reverse cable right here, and it's connected to a pin here. There's a little cotter pin that you just kind of pull out with some pliers and slide that right off. And then there's this bolt right here that goes through the bushing. You won't be able to get it all the way out because it's going to hit the side of the tunnel, but you can see that there is a little slot right there. So it allows you to basically, once you kind of loosen it up, you can pull it down and then you'll be able to take this bolt all the way off. So the only thing left now to do is we're just going to go ahead and pry off of this old bushing right here. You can see it's pretty pliable, so it should be pretty easy to get off, and then we'll get our new bushings in. Wow, 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 wow. Wow, what a freaking mess. I swear to you, I spent probably like 2 hours trying to get this U-joint out. Struggled hard, was really difficult to find any instruction or any video that really explained it well how to do it. But I'm gonna show you guys how to do it, so hopefully you won't have to struggle like I did. All right, so how did I do it? Well, step 1, tear apart your entire interior to get to the shifter U-joint right here. I'm not gonna really show you guys how to do it because I didn't record it, but I have a video obviously where I installed my radio. There's also other YouTube videos where you can basically learn how to take away the interior. But basically like 2 bolts in here, unscrew those, then this kind of just sort of pops out with some leverage, and then there is a screw right there that you'll just need to remove. Also, there'll be some of these like plastic white clips right here that you'll just need to kind of like turn slightly and then pop off. But once that's all removed, then we can get rid of this foam, and then this right here will be connected to your shifter, and just unbolt that. The reason why is so that we can then turn it to get some leverage on a certain bolt that connects the U-joint down at the transmission side. So let's hop down there and I'll show you what I mean. All right, I apologize. It is super tight down here, but I'm gonna do my best. So you can see right there, that is the U-joints that connects from the shifter to the transmission transmission. And basically by loosening it up on the top, we are able to then rotate this lever arm right here so that we can get vice grips on it and then remove a bolt. Again, I'm going to go over what I mean in just a sec. And also there's going to be a bolt right here on the side of the of this U-joint right here, and you're going to be able to get it out, but then you're going to run into the side of this transmission tunnel. And what I've seen is a lot of people, they would either punch right there, you can punch out that pin, but I opted out because I just didn't have the right tools to punch that out. So instead what I did was I took away the jack that was supporting the transmission, and basically now it's being held on by the drive shaft and the engine. All right, so what I did was I took a pry bar and I basically put it between the tunnel and the transmission. Make sure you're not catching it on anything that could break, and gave it a really good push. It's going to take some elbow grease, but if you will be able to push the transmission enough to the side to just wiggle that bolt out. Now the way this U-joint is oriented is this stupid design, which is like this flat bolt head here, is going to be facing towards the top of the car, and then this bolt right here, or this nut rather, is going to be facing below you. Now obviously when you try to take off this nut, this bolt is just going to keep free spinning. Now the reason why we undid that sort of shifter fork linkage from the top and from the bottom is so that we can then turn that rod this way. Now we have better access to this head, and you get a nice meaty pair of vice grips, and you grip that head, and then you'll be able to take this nut off. Now I want to also tell you that there is a specific orientation as to how this U-joint is set in the car. Now there's going to be two of these like U-joints. One is attached to the transmission. That is going to be oriented with this little hump, and you'll notice it on the U-joint. There'll be this little hump that faces up towards the car. Now that is the U-joint that is connected to the transmission. There is another U-joint obviously that is connected to the shift lever that we pulled off. That is going to be oriented with the hump facing the driver's side, so to the left. So keep that in mind. As for this sort of like bushing piece, you'll notice that it's not quite symmetrical, right? You can see how it's a little bit longer on this bottom and a little bit shorter on the top, but you can see that, right? Longer on the bottom, shorter on the top, where it kind of meets this horizontal piece. And the way that's oriented is that longer side is going to be facing down. So remember that when you put it back in, because that will be important. Now this piece is where we're going to be replacing those bushings. As you can see, these two bushings, I mean, like, they're okay, but if you look at this part, see how it just falls off, that sleeve? Well, that's pretty much how it came. There was absolutely no bushing left, and it was just this metal sleeve inside. So that's probably where all that sloppy, floppy shift was coming from. And let's keep going with this install. I also replaced this rear shifter bushing with a white line piece. It's really tight up there, so I couldn't really get you a good view, but it is pretty obvious on how to do it. It's towards the back of the linkage. You'll just kind of see it popping right there. Pretty easy access to get. Just pop out those two bolts, install the new one, but we also replaced that in the car, and that's already in there right now. All right, so we got all the bushings installed, all the linkages hooked back up underneath the car. We just got to get the transmission cross member back up, torque it down to spec, and then we can move on to the interior to get the short shifter adapter installed. Holy hell, that was a lot more annoying than it should have absolute any right being. So this ball end on the OEM shifter rod is super annoying to get out. You can see there's a hole there and it's held on by this little roll pin. Basically, the first thing you want to do is you want to try to get it as flat as possible anywhere inside on a flat surface. I did it while it was still kind of attached to the car, but you have to line it up nice and perfect and really give it one hard smack. Then once the roll pin's kind of halfway out, I got a 17mm socket, lined it up like that, punched it, and that gives you enough room kind of below to let the pin fall out. All right, so I got the shifter back in, and right now I'm just kind of test fitting it and trying to see what throw length that I want. And right now I have it set at pretty much the longest length, which means it'll be the shortest shift. I'm actually pretty happy with where it's at. I like how the shifter has been raised, so the shift knob's a little bit higher. Makes it feel a little bit more race car-y. And the shifts being shorter, I'd say probably about half, it feels great. So this is kind of where I think I want to keep it. So I'm going to get everything buttoned back up, put all the screws, tighten them down to spec and everything like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and add Loctite to the set screws to pretty much lock kind of where my shift points are right now. And we're also going to have to do a slight modification to the metal surround trim, just because since everything's kind of raised up, the shift fork, shift U-joint or whatever like that might interfere. So we're just going to make a little bit of room. All right, let's go for a quick test drive. All right, overall initial thoughts, the shifts are much, much tighter, and I love this. It's solid. There is no more play like we had before. It's a little bit getting used to because the shifts are so short now. You got to make sure you know, put enough force that it gets into gear. It's not bad overall. It's just different from obviously the floppy shifter that I had before. But overall, I'm super happy, especially with the bushings. I love the overall shifter height now. The shift throw, again, great. Super, super, super happy with this. All right, so it was a major pain to get all the shifter bushings in there and to get the short shift adapter in, but wow, holy crap, what a complete transformation it makes driving this car. You remember all of that slop that I had before. Gone, 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 gone. The car is completely different to drive. Super, super, super happy of how it all turned out, and at the end of the day, we were able to get through it. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you in the next episode.